on the phone lines now, Dr. Devon Taylor, my brother and friend, president of JABEM, senior biomedical research scientist in immunology, working in the biopharmaceutical industry in the United States. He holds a BSc from the University of the West Indies in biochemistry and chemistry, and an MA from City University of New York, City College in biochemistry immunology. He gained a PhD from the Graduate Center, City University of New York in biochemistry and immunology. We're talking about all of his stuff: B-cell biology and regulation of autoreactive cells in the autoimmune disease lupus. In other words, around there making vaccines. We're going to go to the phone lines. Dr. Devon Taylor, how you doing, my brother?
Doing well.
Yes,
Omar make a vaccine where they'll just immunize against the displacement from beaches, you know what I mean?
That's where you're failing. That's where you're failing. That's a vaccine you need to make. I'll leave that to you, Devon, right? I'll leave that to you. That's your thing to do. I'll support you. This is the only vaccine that I'm going to back, 100%. But Devon, you were on last week. We talked about the budget presentation, the Prime Minister's presentation in the budget, and the fact that he said to encapsulate this, he is going to be replacing the Beach Management Control Act. At the time you had gone through it, you had noticed the weaknesses in the, not just the weaknesses, but also the contradictions, the conflicting statement, and the extent to which the budget itself was a budget for the tourism industry, which was in direct contravention or conflict with access, if you will, to our water sources and the beaches. Since then, you've also put out a press release, JABEM, calling for the policy put out by the government to be withdrawn, so that the Jamaica's the proposed beach access and management policy, you say, JABEM says, should be withdrawn. Give us an update as to where we are now after a full week of you looking at this, putting out this press release and the responses so far.
Yes, well, give thanks for putting all of that into context. So we are currently mobilizing civil society, right? And we're mobilizing the grassroots, sharing all the content that is in this policy, and giving people also the time to look at the document, read the document, to make sure that this is not JABEM's interpretation only, but this is the interpretation that every Jamaican from all walks of life and all these different civic institutions, ranging from religious to environmental to social to economic, would have seen the document, looked at it, read it, and we cannot sign off on this as a nation. And so we're having these discussions with these individuals, and we're continuing the education, because everyone is in support of the statement that we have made to withdraw it, because no law should be passed in Jamaica that gives the country a conditionality to be satisfied before you could exercise rights. That is a big insult to the Jamaican people, that you must meet these sets of conditions before you could exercise a right. And the right is not over personal property. The right is not over private property. The right is not over anything that would violate the liberty of any individual. Right? It is to the resources, the treasures of that the government have set a conditional right for its people to access it, and we're saying that is not true. That's not supposed to be like that.
And so the call that JABEM is making, it is really a wholesome call to say, this, you cannot proceed in the way that you have outlined, with what you have outlined, and then do what it is that you say you're about to do. Have you had a response from the Prime Minister's office or the Ministry of Environment and Water or the Foreign Affairs Ministry, you name it, anybody at all from government? Have you had a response?
no one has reached directly out to Jabem, but what they have been doing, right? They have been making the rounds, and different radio network to say that no, it's a good policy for the country, right? And they have made several blunders in their proclamation as to their justification that this is the best policy for the country, right? And that is the only way they're communicating to the public, right? Are communicating to Jabem is through the media to say we are refuting what you're saying. But I can't understand how they will do that when the document clearly states that we have no right, right? And what the document further goes on to says, well, okay, we're going to qualify these rights, and some of these conditions are, how many of you could go on a beach, right? What you could do there, how you should behave there, right? And how you dispose of your garbage there, right? And I'm kind of simplifying the language that you're using in there, because back in the day, and still is, there's a way in which, as my sister, Rachel Goff would say, the mass disciplining of black people. The way how they discipline black people is, so many of you cannot gather in a particular space. When you get in a particular space, this is how you should behave, right? When you get in this particular space, well, you're too nasty. So when you put the rubbish over there, sir, these were always instruments of how they corral, really how they control people. And it's the same language of the colonialists that was used as example as what the licensee, which is the hotel industry, the villa, who would own that beach license, would inflict upon the people. And as I said last week, this condition is not set by the NRCA or the government. The licensee, which is the person who is operating the business on the beach, would be the person who sets the rule as to how the Jamaican public would access the beach and use the sea. And that is unacceptable. So we have not heard from them directly. We wrote this press release, we shared it with the media houses, and we said to them, withdraw the policy, right? They had an opportunity last week. Then Jackson Miller brought us on a program, all angles, and they had invited the Minister of Environment, the President of the Hotel Association was invited, and while I was waiting on the Zoom, the President of the Hotel Association had some difficulty with his Zoom, but the Minister of Environment, I think, said he had some private travel arrangements and did not join. But if this is such a serious issue, upon which 75% of the Jamaican economy is going to be based upon, you have to make the time.
Well, there are many ways
you should make the time to come and debate this with the public.
Well, there are many ways to deal with an interview when you're having difficulty with the Zoom, as we know very well here, as media houses. You come on the phone and we'll put up a picture up on the thing. So there's a greater story there, if you ask me. And I'm not, Dion is a pretty good journalist. I'm not saying it's her. I'm just saying, it's weird if somebody's having a difficulty with a Zoom that you still can't come on the program because the phone lines work just as well. All right, let me take a quick break and I'll come right back with much more. I can see, Dr. Devon Taylor, that you look as if you're in Jamaica. The background there looks like you're up on the beach. Which part are there? That a seaside business.
We're at Mansion Hill. We're up in Mansion Hill this morning.
You got to reach people in place. Let me take a break. I know he's going to be mad at me.
No, we have spread the vaccine up as a first.
Yes, but the vaccine up as a first. But Devon, you might have did ask me for coming to this morning. I do not understand that. You could have leave at about 10 o'clock and I would have joined you in Portland. What kind of business is that? My favorite parish. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll be right back with much more.
From the creators of Money Fridays, we introduce to you another radio first. Grab back.
Stay locked into Irie FM on the 107 this and every Monday in the wake-up call for Grab Bag, and you could win up to $50,000 cash weekly plus other prizes.
All you have to do is call Irie FM when you hear it's Grab Bag time. Tell the announcer which bag to dip into, and what comes up is yours, just like that.
It could be a gift from a sponsor. It could be $10,000. It could be $30,000. It could be a whopping $50,000. Or it could be, sorry, try again.
But if you don't have a representing hand in the bag, you don't have a chance.
Grab Bag is brought to you courtesy of
Childs Are Us Limited, Banners Valley, St. Elizabeth. For Childs, tools, every household fixture. Call 965-1896. Childs Are Us.
Safe, reliable, great value. Always buy from an authorized IGL dealer. The time by IGL is
now 7:46 on the phone lines. Dr. Devon Taylor, President of JABEM. We are talking about looking in the aftermath of the Prime Minister's announcement that government will be withdrawing the Beach Management Control Act. They have tabled a policy. Dr. Devon Taylor of JABEM, they have been going through the policy, and at the end of the day, they have called for this policy to be totally withdrawn, because it really, at the end of the day, is an neo-colonial document that is probably rivaling the current colonial document that they say they're going to replace. And at the end of the day, Devon, it is not even a replacement. The Prime Minister used the word replace in Parliament. But from what we're seeing from the policy, this is, as you said last week, these are amendments, not replacement of the document at all.
It is. But what the Prime Minister also said, that he recognized that the document will need to be replaced, and that this is the first step in replacing the document. But, I mean, when you examine the document, you add up on the screen just now, some of the most, dangerous component of it. So if you could really put those back up for,
yes,
the public to see them, right?
Could you go? Are you able to go through them?
Yes, I can definitely go through this, because these will be the areas of greatest changes to the document, right? And as you can see, we're capturing here around 8 of those different, new features, which are further entrench the coloniality of the document. We spoke about the qualified right component, right? That they are thinking about, in this era, that they will grant us this freedom, and our freedom to use it for sure would not be inherent. It would be conditional. We went into that, and we cannot have rights in our country that is conditional. Right must be inherent and fundamental. That's the foundation of democracies, right? But some of the other most outrageous component within this policy is the ability of the cabinet to really sell beaches, right? And so this is something that has gone too far, that now they're going to entrench in law that they can sell them. There's no place in the current Beach Control Act of 1956 that states that the government can alienate the nation, sell it off, transfer to someone permanently, right? While the document preserve all pre-1956, construct at the foreshore, the document ended everything and reset that the foreshore and the floor of the sea is vested and controlled by the crown, right? There were people who owned some docks whose land title extended down to the foreshore, and the crown says we're going to preserve those, but there were not many. And I've heard an argument placed that pre-1956, everybody's land title went into the sea, and that is grossly incorrect. The foreshore and the floor of the sea are always vested in the crown.
Where did you hear that? Where did you hear
and
that?
They were by colonial grant.
Where did you hear
that? Was on a network. There was the Minister of Environment had said that on Nationwide, and I do not want to paraphrase in here, but there was an interview done, I think with Cliff Hughes, and the interview is informed that pre-1956, all land titles, was to the foreshore, and the foreshore was basically private, and that's a grossly incorrect statement. The floor of the sea and the foreshore in all British colonies, right, was vested in the crown.
As a matter of fact, let me sorry to interrupt you, Devon, but as a matter of fact, if you want to challenge this openly in terms of what's happening in the United Kingdom right now, there is a conversation in the United Kingdom right now about this very same thing, and the extent to which the crown, meaning King Charles III, now owns what land he owns, and how rental for the coastline is going into his pockets, and all of that. So there's also among people like the Republic and those who hashtag not my king, they're having this very same conversation. It's a very same kind of law, isn't it? Britain don't even have a constitution, but we totally wrapped up in Britain's constitution. I know that I too know that is erroneous. That argument is erroneous. I'm not quite sure where that came from, why it came up, and why it is being unchallenged in previously credible spaces.
Absolutely, and we're challenging it. You know what I mean? We're challenging all those things. You know, I mean, we're challenging that you can't sell beaches. We're challenging that, you cannot remove rock face. You cannot remove the barriers that protect the land to make artificial beaches. And this is something that is going to be entrenched in the new beach access and management policy. That was never part of the Beach Control Act of 1956 that gives you permission to remove just acres of rock faces to build artificial beach, to which Jamaicans would have no right. Explicitly state in this policy that artificial beaches created by developers, where they make land out of water by removing that, coastline with those high intensity wave that would destroy the land, and then that property will be divested and controlled by, that developer in perpetuity, basically taking away rights. No, the Beach Control Act never did that, and this act is doing that.
So let me ask
you this. The Beach Control Act also did not, speak up.
Go ahead.
No, I was saying that, just to complete the circle of dispossession that is in this document about overwater bungalow, taking areas of the sea, selling it off for 25 years, right? For 20 years, and no one could go there. So they're appropriating the sea. And the Beach Control Act of 1956 never went there, but this document, went there, right? The Beach Control Act never says hotel must charge people for access. It says the foreshore is preserved in the crown and the sea is preserved. And these things really should be held in trust for the Jamaican people. This document says they're going to encourage hotel to charge us, some fees to access the beach. And this is the point. Don't own the foreshore. They don't own the sea. This is
the point, Devon, because this is why I'm saying.
No, go ahead.
That this new document that we have in front of us from the government of Jamaica really is more colonial than the colonial document itself, and that is frightening.
It is very, very scary and frightening, Kabo, to see that we are past 1956. 70 years ago, this law came into being in Jamaica. And 70 years later, instead of the government, free waterway, recognizing that we need to decolonize the country, remove those colonial era law that, was responsible for the oppression of our people. They are further entrenching in that document dispossession and alienation from the coastline, by proposing to really create artificial beaches with no rights to the Jamaican people, to have the ability to blatantly sell beaches, right? And to state that all will have our qualified rights that are based upon, rules set by multinational and foreign corporations.
A new rules-based order that's coming on the backside of this new world economic order. Finally, Devon, what next? Where does JABEM go from here? What activities are scheduled? What plans are in place?
So I share a flyer with you.
Oh, we just had it up
next
on
week
screen?
Saturday. Yes, next week Saturday. We're calling upon communities in and around, St. Ann, but also across the nation. Because St. Ann is ground zero. But we're asking the nation to come join us in a rally, right down there in Miami Bay on the sidewalk. We did one about 2 months ago from 11 to 3 a.m. And this march is really about, rights. This protest, this gathering, this rally that we're having. This rally, and I need to use the correct terminology because I know, what they'll do. We're having a rally in place. We're not going to be marching. We're going to be on the sidewalk. We're going to, dissect this beach policy, for the community because this is ground zero. This is where JABEM started from because we were dispossessed from Miami Bay Beach. And we'll be challenging the cancellation of our birthright by giving us no, fundamental rights to the foreshore.
And
we're going to be challenging it.
This is this Saturday in Miami Bay on the road or where exactly in Miami Bay?
Sidewalk. We're going to be on the sidewalk. We're going to be right in front of the community owned property there, and we're going to be right in front of our brothers and sisters' gates, right along the sidewalk in Miami Bay. April the 4th from 11 to 3 p.m.
All right. So once again, Rally for Beach Rights, Miami Bay St. Ann say no to qualified rights. New beach policy attacks public rights, cancellation of beach birthright, selling of public beaches, eviction from the foreshore, corruption of the the Prescriptive Rights Act, no rights to artificial beaches, privatization of the sea. Saturday, April 4, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m., the sidewalk at Miami Bay Beach. Basically, I'll be there, Devon. I'll see you there. Before you go,
give thanks.
Before you go,
turn
the camera around. Let me see the beach, because you're alone can't just dip on the beach a mansion like that. Turn the camera around. Let us see what's. Are you able to?
Well, I'm trying to see if you're to do that.
Okay.
But I definitely can.
What?
Can show the flock and show the community that this is the Manchini Fishing Beach. And under this new policy, this is a beach that was established through common rights, common law, to our use of it. And it's protected in perpetuity. But what they want to do with the policy is to license these beaches, bring them on a licensing framework, and if they do so, those licenses can be transferred, right? And so you run the risk that this wonderful space in the Montreal Harbor would be transferred to private interests. And so we are saying, no, keep these fishing beaches, right, in their original ownership, construct. We could really help the fishing community to really make them stronger. And I have to say, there's some of that work going on with fisheries that they're training these fisher folks. But we are saying that we do not want the beaches, the fishing beaches, to come on a licensing regime, because that opens up the fishing beaches to be privatized. Leave them on the community. No licensing.
You're breaking up.
Publish that these beaches are community control.
Devon, we're losing you, but we're seeing the beautiful, and I know the challenges we're facing, but what a sight for sore eyes on this Sunday morning. Portland is so beautiful, Montreal is so beautiful, but remember, we don't have access to all these beaches, and fishermen who are on a lot of these beaches are being challenged now to ensure that they fight to keep them going. Thank you so much, Dr. Devon Taylor, and Saturday we'll be at in Miami Bay, 11 o'clock.
Give thanks. Bless.
All right, Devon Taylor there. You are inside of the Africa Forum. This is Running African.